For most of us, a trip to Walmart is a weekly ritual, the familiar run for milk or paper towels. But lurking in those all-too-familiar aisles, common sense often takes a vacation, and the human mind creates grievances so bizarre, they become legendary. We've collected those moments of peak absurdity to bring you 55 of the most baffling and hilarious complaints Walmart employees have ever had to endure. 1. A mother filed a formal complaint about the strategic placement of candy and toys in the checkout aisle. She didn't just call it smart marketing, she described it as a deliberately engineered act of parental sabotage. She claimed the items were positioned at the precise eye level of a seated toddler, a tactic she was convinced was designed to weaponize pester power and instigate meltdowns, thereby coercing parents into making unplanned purchases under extreme duress. 2. A customer complained about the convex security mirrors, claiming their fisheye view grotesquely distorted his appearance. He said it made his head look small and his hands suspiciously large, making him look inherently shifty, as if the mirror itself was profiling him as a potential shoplifter. The constant, distorted view ruined his mood and made him too self-conscious to shop comfortably, accusing the store of creating a high-anxiety, low-self-esteem environment. 3. The tense, silent walk through the anti-theft gates became the basis for a formal complaint from one man who called it a psychological ordeal. He described it as a silent trial by technology, where you're forced to hold your breath, terrified that a faulty sensor will falsely brand you a shoplifter in front of a crowd. He wasn't just annoyed, he accused the store of creating a needlessly stressful, innocent man's gauntlet that soured the entire shopping experience at the very last second. 4. You know that normal puff of cold air you get when you open a freezer door? For one woman, that was a direct assault on her immune system. She immediately found a manager to complain that the sudden and violent thermal shock of the freezer air was a guaranteed way to catch a cold. She was genuinely outraged that the store would expose her to such a reckless blast of frigid air. She wasn't just concerned, she was essentially accusing the freezer of breathing pneumonia directly into her face. 5. A woman returned an entire flock of Furbies, convinced they were possessed. She swore that in the dead of night, they all began chanting in a demonic, backward-sounding language, possibly reciting her credit card number. An employee's attempt to explain the science of dying batteries warping a sound chip was met with scorn. She was certain the toys were trying to open a portal to hell, and if that failed, she was going to make sure they opened a direct portal to the customer service desk for a full refund. 6. During a scorching Arizona summer, a customer filed a complaint that the parking lot was unreasonably hot and sunny, framing it as a deliberate act of customer hostility. He demanded that management either paint the entire asphalt lot reflective white or construct a giant climate-controlled dome over the premises. As a more budget-friendly alternative, he suggested they at least invest in a new, more considerate grade of SPF 50 asphalt. 7. A woman tried to return a birthday cake with well over half of it missing, her reason being, it didn't taste good. When the manager gestured to the gaping hole in the cake, she explained with the deadpan seriousness of a professional food critic, it was a large cake. A thorough analysis required a significant sample size. Her subsequent written complaint cited the store's failure to accommodate her rigorous multi-slice quality assurance taste testing program. 8. For one woman, the smell of fresh baking bread from the in-store bakery wasn't a delightful aroma, it was an unfair and predatory form of sensory marketing. She complained to the manager that the overpowering scent of fresh yeast was a deliberate tactic to make her crave carbs, which sabotaged her diet. She wasn't suggesting they stop baking. She was demanding they install some kind of industrial smell ventilation system to protect shoppers from their own appetites. 9. In the clothing department, a woman complained that the large plastic anti-theft tags were a form of pre-purchase visual sabotage. She insisted that the bulky sensor, clipped firmly onto a blouse, completely ruined the garment's natural drape and silhouette, making it impossible for her to accurately judge its fashion potential on the hanger. She wasn't asking for them to be removed. She was suggesting they be replaced with smaller, more aesthetically considerate security devices. 10. This complaint wasn't about a product, but about the iconic blue employee vests. A customer wrote a multi-paragraph letter to corporate arguing that the vests were an ergonomic disaster. He claimed the cheap polyester blend wasn't breathable and was causing employees to underperform due to excessive heat retention. He seriously suggested Walmart partner with a high-performance athletic brand to design new moisture-wicking vests to optimize employee speed, because he shouldn't have to wait an extra 30 seconds for someone to grab his jar of pickles from the top shelf. 11. A woman bought a rotisserie chicken from the deli. She returned 20 minutes later, not with the chicken, but with a handful of clean bones in a plastic bag. She demanded a full refund, claiming the chicken was defective because it had bones in it. She argued that for the convenience of a pre-cooked meal, she expected the inconvenience of deboning to have also been handled by the store. She genuinely believed a rotisserie chicken should be a solid, bone-free sphere of meat. 12. A man tried to return a heavily used mud-caked shovel. When the employee at the service desk asked what was wrong with it, the man pointed to a small dent and a few scratches on the metal blade. His complaint? The shovel was not indestructible. He had been using it to try and break up a concrete slab in his backyard, and he was furious that the tool, designed for digging in dirt, showed signs of wear after being repeatedly slammed against solid rock. He said the warranty should cover all conceivable uses. 13. Here's a question for you. Have you ever bought something just because it was on sale? A woman did, purchasing a large bag of cat food marked down for clearance. The next day, she came back to complain. She didn't have a cat. She was furious that the sale was so enticing it forced her to make a purchase she had no use for. She wasn't blaming her own lack of impulse control. She was blaming Walmart's marketing for being too effective. 14. A customer went to the vision center to get new glasses. After the exam, he was looking at frames and became visibly upset. He filed a complaint with the store manager that the mirrors in the optical department were deceptively high definition. He claimed they made him look older and more tired than his mirrors at home, causing him significant emotional distress. He suggested they install softer, more flattering mirrors to improve the customer experience. 15. This one is a masterclass in shifting blame. A man purchased a new GPS and came back the next day, his truck covered in mud, demanding a full refund. He had blindly followed its instructions off a main road, down a dirt path, and directly into a swamp where his truck got stuck. His official complaint wasn't about his own decision to drive into a bog, but that Walmart sold a navigation device that lacked the common sense to protect him from himself. 16. In the dead of winter, a customer returned a brand new top-of-the-line plastic sled. It was still in the wrapper. His reason for the return? There was no snow. He was angry that the store would even sell him the sled, knowing full well the weather forecast was clear for the next 2 weeks. He felt the cashier had a moral obligation to warn him about the lack of precipitation before letting him make the purchase. What would you even say to that? 17. A man bought a new box of tissues and was furious with the very first one he pulled out. You know how it sometimes rips or pulls the next few tissues up with it? He didn't see this as a minor, universal annoyance. He saw it as a catastrophic failure of introductory engineering. He filed a complaint against Walmart for selling a fundamentally flawed product and demanded that an employee be tasked with pre-testing the first tissue from every single box to ensure a smooth initial user experience. 18. We've all been there. You grab an outfit you saw on a mannequin and it just doesn't look the same in the fitting room. But one woman took this experience personally. She went to customer service to complain that the store's use of unrealistically thin, statuesque mannequins was a form of false advertising. She demanded that the store immediately replace all of them with mannequins that represented, in her words, a variety of realistic, out-of-shape body types with bad posture. 19. A customer bought a bag of ice from the freezer section. He returned minutes later, holding a bag that was now half water. He complained that the ice was melting too fast. He was furious that the frozen water began its transition back to a liquid state the moment it left the sub-zero environment of the store's freezer. He expected the ice to somehow know it needed to remain frozen until he got it home, regardless of the 90-degree temperature outside. 20. A woman went to the checkout with a buy one, get one free coupon for a brand of shampoo. She placed one bottle on the conveyor belt. The cashier scanned it, and the woman looked confused. She asked, "Where's my free one?" The cashier explained that you have to buy the first one to get the second one for free. The woman became irate, arguing that the coupon said, "Get one free," and she was there to get her free one. She didn't want to buy anything. She was just there to cash in on the freeness. 21. A customer got one of those shopping carts, you know the one, with a bad wheel that made a loud thump 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 with every rotation. Instead of just swapping it for another one, he hunted down a manager. He formally complained that the cart was sonically aggressive and was violating his right to a peaceful shopping experience. He claimed the incessant noise was destroying his focus, causing him to forget items on his list, and that other shoppers were staring at him with what he perceived as judgmental pity. He demanded to see the store's preventative wheel maintenance logs. 22. This one is about the automatic doors. A man stood in front of them for a moment, and when they slid open, he stormed straight to the manager. His complaint? The doors had a hesitation of about half a second before opening. He claimed this minuscule delay disrupted his stride and threw off his entire shopping momentum. He wasn't injured or even inconvenienced, just deeply offended by the door's lack of urgency. 23. Have you ever actually looked at the floor tiles in a Walmart? One customer did, and it apparently traumatized him. He filed a detailed complaint arguing that the specific pattern of alternating light and dark squares was a deliberate and hypnotic psychological trap. He claimed the design was meant to be disorienting, causing him to become dizzy and wander into aisles he didn't need, thus tricking him into making impulse purchases. 24. A woman went to check out and tried to use a coupon from Target. When the cashier politely explained that they couldn't accept a competitor's coupon, the woman didn't argue about the policy's validity. Instead, she complained that Walmart was fostering a toxic, anti-community retail environment. She genuinely believed all major stores should honor each other's coupons as a sign of corporate sportsmanship. 25. A man sought out a manager in the seasonal aisle, pointing with disgust at a bug zapper. His complaint wasn't that it failed to work, quite the opposite. He was horrified by the constant, violent zapping sound it made on his patio. He described the noise as a brutal symphony of sizzle and pop that was ruining his quiet evenings. He was genuinely appalled that the device provided such audible, gruesome evidence of its own success, and suggested they should sell a version that dispatches pests silently and with a bit more dignity. 26. The in-store radio is usually just background noise, but for one shopper, it was an instrument of emotional manipulation. She complained that a particularly sad slow country song started playing right as she entered the pet food aisle. She claimed the melancholic music made her feel an overwhelming sense of pity for the shelter animals, causing her to buy the most expensive, grain-free, premium dog food out of guilt. She accused the store of weaponizing playlists. 27. A special was announced over the store's PA system. A few seconds later, a man was at the service desk, pale and shaken. He complained that the sudden disembodied voice from the heavens had given him a genuine fright. He argued there should be a gentle, introductory chime before any announcements are made, to properly prepare shoppers for a message from the all-powerful ceiling entity. How do you even respond to that? 28. One shopper experienced what he described as a full-on existential crisis in the cereal aisle. He lodged a formal grievance claiming the endless wall of cartoon mascots and sugar-dusted promises was a malicious form of psychological warfare that induced decision paralysis. His solution wasn't simply fewer choices. He demanded Walmart convert the entire aisle into a curated minimalist cereal museum, featuring no more than 3 manager-approved breakfast grains. 29. This complaint focuses on that little plastic stick at the checkout counter, the divider. A customer complained that he was never sure when it was socially appropriate to put it down. He said the anxiety of prematurely dividing, or dividing too late, was ruining his checkout experience. He suggested a new system, perhaps a green light, to indicate the precise, universally accepted moment to place the divider. 30. A man complained to the manager about the checkout conveyor belt, not because it was dirty or broken, but because, in his words, its relentless forward momentum was giving him severe anxiety. He claimed the constant motion created a high-pressure assembly line environment, forcing him to unload his cart at an unnatural speed. He wasn't just annoyed, he felt like he was in a race against an inanimate object and losing. He demanded they install variable speed control so he could select a more meditative, leisurely pace for his groceries. 31. A man marched back into a store, holding a watermelon aloft like a trophy of failure. This so-called seedless watermelon, he announced to the nearest employee, is a botanical deception that has shattered my trust in this establishment. He was incandescent with rage over finding a few of the small, white, harmless seeds inside. The manager had to gently inform him that the store could not issue a refund for a product's failure to defy the fundamental laws of biology. 32. We've all been stuck behind someone who just stops their cart in the middle of the aisle. Most of us just sigh and go around. But one man saw this as a systemic failure on Walmart's part. He complained that the store had no official policy against unlicensed cart abandonment, and that it fostered an environment of aisle anarchy. His solution? He seriously proposed that Walmart hire aisle traffic wardens to issue warnings and, if necessary, parking tickets to inconsiderate shoppers. 33. A customer filed a complaint that the fluorescent lighting over the health and beauty aisle was interrogation grade and emotionally damaging. He claimed that when he bent down to look at shampoo, he caught his reflection in the price sticker and the harsh lighting revealed every single one of his wrinkles. This, he wrote, sent him into a spiral of existential dread. He demanded the store install softer, more flattering mood lighting, so he wouldn't have to confront his own mortality while buying deodorant. 34. A customer approached an employee who was mopping up a small spill in an aisle, putting down a bright yellow wet floor sign. Instead of being grateful, the customer complained that the sign was needlessly alarming. He argued that the bright color and bold text created a sense of manufactured panic that disrupted the store's tranquil atmosphere. He insisted that a more subtle, perhaps pastel-colored sign with a gentler font saying, "Caution, floor is temporarily moist," would be far more appropriate for what he called a minor hydration event. 35. A man in the garden center was looking at a small potted houseplant. He called an employee over, not to ask about the price, but to complain that the plant's tag said it required watering. He was genuinely annoyed that he would be expected to perform labor after the purchase. He argued that he was buying a piece of living decor, not a high-maintenance botanical dependent, and accused the store of failing to disclose the long-term commitment and unwanted responsibilities associated with plant ownership. 36. Have you ever felt personally attacked by a piece of hardware? A woman in the fitting rooms did. She complained that the single hook on the back of the door was judgmentally small. She claimed its limited capacity was the store's way of subtly shaming her for wanting to try on more than 3 items. She didn't see it as a simple design choice. She saw it as a passive-aggressive corporate policy designed to police her fashion exploration, and she wanted it replaced with a larger, more emotionally supportive hook system. 37. A shopper bought a huge multi-pack of toilet paper. He returned it with one roll missing, complaining that the product was inefficient. His logic was stunning. He argued that if the toilet paper was of a higher quality, he would have to use less of it, and therefore the roll should have lasted longer. He was essentially complaining that the product was not magical and that its mass decreased upon use, which he considered a fundamental design flaw. 38. A man was infuriated by the child's ride at the front of the store, the one that costs a quarter to rock back and forth. His own child wasn't with him. He was mad on principle. He complained to the manager that the ride's joy-to-cost ratio was criminally low. He had timed it and found that 25 cents only bought 45 seconds of subpar mechanical jostling. He accused Walmart of exploiting childhood wonder for profit and demanded they either triple the ride time or make the experience at least 300% more thrilling. 39. An older gentleman was struggling to open a child-proof bottle of aspirin in the pharmacy aisle. When he finally got it open, he didn't just take his pills, he took his complaint straight to the pharmacist. He claimed the push-down-and-turn mechanism was blatantly age-discriminatory and a conspiracy against senior citizens. He wasn't just frustrated with the cap. He was alleging a human rights violation and demanded the store start stocking a line of dignity-enabled, easy-open bottles for adults. 40. After a cashier scanned all his items, a man inserted his card into the chip reader and then just stood there, staring. After the transaction was approved, he complained about the unbearably awkward 3 to 5 second processing delay. He claimed the silence was existentially heavy and forced him into uncomfortable, prolonged eye contact with the cashier. 41. This complaint comes from a very tall man, probably around 6'5". He was furious that he had to bend down to get items off the bottom shelf. He didn't just find it inconvenient, he filed a formal complaint about what he termed systemic lumbar discrimination. He argued that the store's layout was designed to punish the vertically gifted and demanded that aisles be reorganized so that all products were placed at a universally respectable, non-stooping height. 42. A store was offering free samples of a new type of sausage. A customer took one, chewed it thoughtfully, and then went to find a manager. He complained that the sample was a perfectly engineered piece of culinary torture. His reasoning? It was just large enough to make him realize he was hungry, but far too small to satisfy that hunger. He accused the store of putting him in a state of gastronomic limbo and demanded a second, more substantial, decision-affirming sample. 43. A shopper attempted to use a coupon for a brand of canned chili that hadn't been on shelves since the early 2000s. When the cashier politely explained it had expired over a decade ago, the woman filed a complaint accusing the store of being chronologically discriminatory. She argued that as a sign of good faith, they should honor all coupons from any era to better serve their most loyal customers, who might, she hinted, just happen to be time travelers. 44. The greeter at the door gave a little girl a smiley face sticker. A few minutes later, the girl's father came back, furious. The sticker's adhesive was weak, and it had fallen off his daughter's jacket, triggering a full-blown toddler meltdown. He filed a complaint against the store for the catastrophic adhesive failure and the resulting severe emotional distress it caused his child. He was essentially demanding industrial-grade adhesive on a giveaway sticker to prevent a perfectly predictable tantrum. 45. A man held up a gallon of milk with a full 10-day shelf life and complained that he was being sold a defective, pre-expiring product. He accused the store of engaging in premeditated spoilage, essentially arguing that selling something that will eventually go bad is a form of corporate fraud. He wasn't just mad at the milk, he was fundamentally opposed to the entire concept of perishable goods. 46. A man brought a brand new, unopened jar of pickles to the customer service desk, his face grim with determination. He wasn't returning it. He was filing a formal complaint that the vacuum seal was hermetically hostile and anti-consumer. He argued that selling food in a container that he couldn't physically open without specialized tools and superhuman strength was a breach of contract. His demand: the store must provide a dedicated, professional jar opening service near the exit, so customers wouldn't have to face this domestic struggle alone at home. 47. A shopper complained that the handheld plastic shopping baskets were an ergonomic travesty. His issue was the single-handle design. He claimed that carrying it, even for a few minutes, resulted in an asymmetrical load-bearing situation that was putting a strain on one side of his body. He was genuinely concerned about the long-term muscular imbalances this could cause the store's clientele. 48. A man returned a 10-foot inflatable pool, dragging the massive plastic carcass behind him, absolutely furious that it was sold empty. He genuinely expected the water to be factory sealed inside. In his complaint, he demanded to know why Walmart would engage in such deceptive practices. The manager, picturing the logistical nightmare of shipping pre-filled pools across the country, could only assume the man was looking for the limited edition pre-filled Atlantic Ocean model, which was regrettably out of stock. 49. A customer complained about buying a 50-pound bag of dog food. His issue wasn't the price, but what he called the ergonomic violence of the packaging. He claimed lifting the massive bag was an unregulated high-risk deadlift that the store was forcing upon him. His formal complaint demanded that for any item over 30 pounds, Walmart must provide a complimentary bulk goods Sherpa to assist customers from the shelf all the way to their vehicle. 50. A man went to the service desk, not to return anything, but to complain about the state of the shopping cart corral. He was upset that he had to expend significant physical effort to jam his cart into the messy line of other carts. He wasn't mad at the other shoppers who left it a mess. He was mad at Walmart for not having an employee stationed at the corral to act as a cart valet, ensuring each returning cart was nested perfectly and with professional precision. 51. A customer filed a complaint regarding the red laser of the price scanner at checkout. He claimed that when he slid his items across the scanner, the brief flash of red light on his hand felt like an unsolicited dermatological examination. He was genuinely concerned about the unknown, long-term, cumulative effects of these micro-exposures to low-grade laser radiation, week after week. He wasn't accusing the store of malice, but of biophotonic negligence, and suggested cashiers be trained to shield customers' hands during the scanning process. 52. After a 2-hour shopping marathon, a woman called the store in a panic. She'd completely forgotten where she parked her car. She didn't ask for help. She demanded an employee find it for her immediately. Her reasoning was that the store's confusing and overwhelming size was directly responsible for her amnesia. Her complaint implied it was Walmart's fault for not designing a store that somehow defies the basic principles of space, time, and human memory. 53. A customer filed a formal complaint because a Walmart greeter was, in her words, aggressively friendly. The employee's high-wattage smile and cheerful "Welcome to Walmart" apparently shattered her pre-shopping tranquility. Her written request stated that for future visits, she expected a greeting more aligned with the soul-crushing DMV level of corporate indifference. She wasn't after a discount, just a guarantee that her entrance would be met with a silent, perhaps slightly judgmental nod. 54. After completing his purchase, a man stared at his incredibly long receipt, which was filled with coupons. He then complained to the manager that it was not a receipt, but a scroll of financial shame and a physical manifestation of his poor impulse control. He found it environmentally hostile and personally embarrassing to be handed such a detailed thesis on his bad decisions. He suggested the store offer a more discreet, simple, pass-fail slip instead. 55. A man complained after his ice cream and toilet bowl cleaner were put in the same bag. His issue wasn't leakage, but what he called emotional cross-contamination. He claimed the joyful essence of his dessert was being psychologically tainted by the bleak utilitarian aura of the cleaning product. His treat was now ruined because it shared a space with a chore, and he demanded cashiers be trained in psychological bagging, a system where happy and sad items are kept separate to preserve the emotional integrity of the purchase. And that's our tour through the minds of shoppers for whom a minor inconvenience is a major crisis. But now, let's get real. We've spent all this time laughing at their bizarre complaints, so let's talk about the ones that actually matter. Yours. What is your ultimate Walmart pet peeve? Unleash it in the comments below. I want to see some absolute fireworks. And if these tales of retail madness made you feel sane by comparison, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more dives into human absurdity.